igualdad, pero esta vez me separaron. Dijeron mucho, pero no se olvidaron de callarse. Cuánto odio por mi piel sembraron. Dijeron historia y la tergiversaron. Dijeron guerra, muerte, odio y nos culparon. Siempre. Enfermedades, epidemias nos contagiaron. Exterminación de mi fauna complace a tus mercados. Dijeron riqueza y todo se lo robaron. Oro, platino, diamante, a la fuerza se lo llevaron. Y la actualidad es tan triste que todo aquello que dijeron es lo mismo que hoy se dice más. ¿Quién dice, quién explota, quién se beneficia? El asesino, el mismo que da las noticias. Hay una cuenta fácil que siempre me da las grandes riquezas, de dónde vienen y hacia dónde van.
Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao. Nati Dre es afroresistencia, cultura ancestral, afrodescendencia, solidaridad. Esa es la esencia, la diáspora africana eleva la conciencia, conciencia negra, universal, progresista y transcultural. Negros y mestizos revolucionando, pueblos caribeños y africanos en un solo bando. No más explotación, colonialismo interno, no más confusión, supremacía blanca en el Babilón. Soy rojo, negro y verde, afroliberación. Mientras más negro, más represión. Somos creadores, recupera tu visión. Mi misión es educar con amor, contra el silencio, vivo sin temor. Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao.
One, two, you know what to do. It's me and the crew. Yes, yes, y'all. Rise up international.
Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop.
We might have a freestyle going. It is.
Man, it can happen. It can happen. It can happen. Y'all rise up.
What's good? What's good?
What's good? What's good?
How y'all feeling?
Oh man, I feel good.
Man, wait a minute. It look like I see somebody we ain't seen since 1936. What's going on? What's happening?
I just came back from Atlanta, but I didn't see you there. What happened?
So, Luna was here.
Rise up, everybody.
Yo.
And what now?
Huh?
Hey, man.
I'm sweating the whole day, man.
Hey, you see how hot it is in France? You see, boy?
I know, man. Look at boy, he hot. Look, he got a suntan. Good God Almighty. He like, I am African today.
You like suntan from birth, you know. Here's how I was born.
No doubt, no doubt. This is the Rise Up International Morning Show, and it has been a while that almost all of us are on, minus Natasha and Ikemba. But we got a full house today. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all probably like, why Kalonji got his camera off? Because there's too many beautiful faces on here today. Y'all don't need to see mine. You know what I'm saying? But this is the Rise Up International Morning Show. We got the boys from France over here today too. Who woke them up? What's going on?
We came through in the heat. It's a heat wave out here.
Man, I didn't know it get hot in France.
Damn, y'all got the towels and everything, man.
Nah, it's hot for real. It's hot for real today.
Damn.
Man,
Actually, we came to look for fun. You know, so if you get something like $20.
Yeah, we need to look for family.
Hopefully we'll get more views than usual.
Hey, yo, I didn't think it got hot in France. All them damn cold ass crackers y'all got over there.
But when
Right.
Anyway,
when it gets hot, though, it gets real hot. But it doesn't last too long, man. So I don't complain because then it starts getting cold.
Yeah, it's going to be over in 2 days, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, and then
it's gonna be what? What's the temperature over there?
let me see what it says today.
35 Celsius?
Yeah, but you got to tell him Fahrenheit, man.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say? He say Celsius. Well, we ain't got no Celsius over here. Our colonizers are Fahrenheit. The hell wrong with this guy? They come over and try to take over. See, that's that French colonizer shit. As soon as they
Give it to us. Give it to us in Kelvins.
I think it's 94 today. 94.
Okay. But that ain't shit. It's like that over here, man. Go ahead over there. Yeah, it's still this is the Rise Up International Morning Show. Even though it's 94 in France, it's still colder than a white man on the planet. We gotta know that. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna keep it moving. Today we got a whole crew. We got Isaac in the building over there in Vegas, cracking them slot machines wide open. You know what I'm saying? We got my man Rakeem in North Kakalaki. You know what I'm saying? We got Boona and Fernando showed up at the same time. I thought they were stunt doubles because we ain't seen them together in a long time. They over in France. Kiana and I riding shotgun here in RBG, Rat Brown, Georgia, formerly known as the A. You can find us in the A, and that's for Africa. Anyway, it's a lot going on. How y'all feeling today, man? Everybody good?
We good. Good. Feeling good, man.
Ready for revolution?
Always.
Okay. If Boona damn nigga on white goddamn color off his stuff, he got damn it. It's hotter than the bug over there, boy. So we looking at a 1-year anniversary.
Oh wow.
Fernando reminded me of the Rise Up International Morning Show. What's that date, Fernando?
July 17th. Coming up real soon. Yeah, 1 year, man.
1 year of the Rise Up International Morning Show. Man, I mean, that's a feat. That's definitely a feat. Brand new morning show. Mm-hmm. And I want to say with that, definitely shout out to all of our supporters out there for keeping us, keeping the movement moving. We were talking before we got online today, and one of the things that we talked about was our longevity. And that is a beautiful thing. And the thing that I love about all of the faces that you see on this particular screen right now, these are folks who came when the platform was hot as it is outside in France right now. They knew it was hot. They said, fuck it, let's go. We gonna get it together. Let's run with it. And so I salute these people right here. These are my comrades. This is family. And you are looking right now, for those of you who are viewing this platform right now, you are witnessing history. These are some of the leaders of the new school, shall they say. These are some of the folks who will be putting in this work to make sure that we continue to fight oppression and that we continue to work towards an international pan-Africanist movement. These are folks who are clear that we are African and that we are part of a class that has been generally oppressed, but that we will not go out like suckers, that we're going to fight until we can't fight no more. So we salute you all this morning on this National Morning Show. Reverend Kiana, what's the good word? You the only here today. It's like,
the good word is always we stay sucker free. Because ain't no other way to be.
Already.
Hey, listen, I have to say too, man, because Kalanji, you always giving us props, man, but we got to give you props too, good brother.
What?
Your work over the years, the way you've inspired all of us, man. That's why we're here too, man. So
absolutely,
we want to give thanks and show love, man. Revolutionary love for sure, man.
That's
gratitude.
Hey man, I appreciate that, and definitely appreciate all the stress and the gray hair that y'all helped me with over this past year. Because two of you in particular, I ain't gonna name no names, Boona and Isaac, it stressed me the hell out. But I appreciate y'all because
save that for the anniversary, man.
Save for the anniversary? Oh yeah,
save that for the 1 year anniversary, man.
Oh yeah, shit. When I finish, I don't even know it'd be a 2-year anniversary after that. But anyway. Again, you're checking out the Rise Up International Morning Show. This is Black Power Media Reloaded, and we are reloaded, and we're here to do what it do. We got a whole bunch of news that we'll be discussing today. We're going to talk about what's going on internationally. We're going to talk about what's going on nationally, and if you stick around long enough, it might even be locally. You're looking at activists, you're looking at freedom fighters, and we are here for you. Rise Up International Morning Show. What we got going on today? How we going to kick this off? We got a break is gonna take it to. We just, y'all looking quiet over there. I'm just running my mouth.
We glad you in the building, man. We glad that you are here with us because we know the work that you've been doing has taken you far and wide and definitely away from us here in Atlanta. But the fact that you continue just to stay on the wall to keep the work going, and the work is international. Part of the reason why this is the Rise Up International Morning Show. You have met us all in different places around the globe. And we still can't say, as Fernando said, how much we appreciate you. But, there's so much that is happening. And as Pan-Africanists that are committed to African liberation, toward total liberation, we would be remiss if we didn't uplift what's been going on all across the continent right now, and particularly in Togo, because of the fact that it is heating up, like really heating up in Togo.
Yeah, I just actually spoke with Dwayne a few minutes ago, and so yeah, he's looking forward to coming back on and giving us another update on what's happening in Togo. So, I mean, probably get that set up, tomorrow maybe. But again, like Kiana said, we're a Pan-African, man. So regardless to whom or what, if it affects African people, it affects us. And so we're definitely, committed to bringing y'all that type of news and what's happening all over the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a couple. I mean, I know Buna has something to say about it, but I just want to let the people know. It was. I mean, the right now in Togo, specifically in Lomé, in the capital, the military is still outside, oppressing the people. Like, they're just standing firm to make sure they keep, four in power. These big time mobilizations that just happened on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of June just now, really showed that the people is clear that they want four to go. Unfortunately, like I said, it was a lot of beating down of the masses of people. A lot of, unfortunately, we lost 7 lives. 7 people were killed. It's over 50 people in prison right now. And a lot of injured people as well. They were just beating people and not allowing people to express themselves. It was supposed to be a peaceful march. Obviously, people coming out just showing that they want change for their country. They want to move towards something different, something positive. And the people showed solidarity. Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but I think that this is a teachable moment. A lot of our folks is checking this out. They don't know what's going on. They don't know where Togo is. They don't know who you're talking about. So if you all don't mind, give some background on where Togo is and what exactly is going on, because of the fact that I think, again, there's some people that are going to check us out like right now that might then catch previous episodes or might not be aware of what's going on the continent. So if you can kind of give us some backstory on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, well, Togo is a small country in West Africa that has one of the important things. It has a major port in Lomé, a major seaport, the biggest one in West Africa, that is now, controlled by the West, actually, by the Bolloré corporations. And it's a country that's it has the longest running this dictatorship in Africa right now. It's a West-backed dictatorship, and it's the four family. They've been there for now close to 60 years. I know, Buna, you want to add on to a little bit to the history of Togo?
Yeah, but before talking about Togo, I wanted to remind you guys and our viewers that today we're celebrating a very important birthday, right? Today we are commemorating the 100th birthday of Patrice Lumumba. He was born on July 2nd, 1925, right? And this is a perfect transition to Togo because, as you all know, Lumumba was one of the staunchest, most committed, uncompromising stalwarts of the struggle against colonialism in the African country.
Right.
And unfortunately, Togo has not only been devastated by the slave trade, had tens of thousands of our ancestors who were deported from Togo to the Americas, but it has also been ruled, like Fernando said, it's been more than 60 years now, almost 60 years because it started actually in 1968. Yeah. Togo is ruled by the Nyasimbe Eyadema family. So Nyasimbe Eyadema was, he was because he passed away in 2005.
No,
the father
son, yeah.
of the current president, for Eyadema. So he was, he's a veteran of the colonial wars that were waged by France in Indochina and Algeria, right? So when he came back to Togo, he was one of the officers who were responsible for the killing, for the assassination of the first president of Togo, an African anti-colonial leader, Sylvanus Olympio. So he was murdered in 1963, and 5 years later, Gnassingbé Eyadema made actually a coup d'etat and became the president until 2005, right? So now from 1968 to 2005, he's been president of Togo, despite all the revolts that happened between 1968 and 2025. Togo is one of the pillars of the French neocolonial empire in Africa. Okay, you cannot understand how it is possible that a family can rule a country like Togo for 60 years if you don't take into account the dirty, vicious, outrageous, I don't even know how to describe it because it has been so devastating, of the French empire in Africa, of the French neocolonialism in Africa. And when I say French, I'm insisting on that because I think many of us in the diaspora, African diaspora in France, looks like we're not aware of what France is doing in our countries. Okay, we're just taking the salary from Babylon, right? And it looks like we're not taking any responsibility for what the country where we live in, right? And the leaders, some of whom we voted for, are doing. Not me, Fernando voted for them.
Whoa. Yo, man, listen.
It's a very important, it's a hotspot of African liberation. I don't know if our brothers and sisters in Togo are going to be successful. Hopefully they will be, because
they have to be.
Not only for, but all the system around him, because one of the negative consequences, one of the footprints, neocolonial footprints that lives in society like Togo, is that we have so many people who are depending on the crumbs that they're getting from the neocolonial leaders, such as FOR, that it creates a system that is benefiting so many people, although it's a minority. That minority will not be willing to lose their privileges. And this is one of the challenges that our brothers and sisters in Togo, but also in Gabon. Okay, there was a coup recently in Gabon, but Gabon has been a French neo-colony since 1960, right? So Togo the same. And FOR has not only been one of the closest allies of the French neo-colonial empire, okay? He's been also very close to all the Western neo-colonial system in West Africa, right? Including Israel, right? Because one of the countries where Israel has the largest footprint in West Africa is Togo, right? So even in terms of security, in terms of military equipment, and also in terms of surveilling, right? In terms of surveillance, in terms of repressing dissidents and the opponents. And this is something that our sister Farida, who is very close to Dwayne, whom Rakim has mentioned earlier, I really recommend people to follow Farida Naburena on Facebook and Instagram. She's a sister from Togo. I believe she's living in the US now, but she's been very active in the opposition to the neocolonial regime in Togo. So those people have been monitored, okay, have been repressed using Israeli technology, right? So
we spoke about that.
Actually, a caricature of neocolonial domination in Africa. The black faces of white supremacy. If you're looking for black face of white supremacy, go in Togo and go check who Foy Gnassingbé is.
Yeah, it's a neo-colonial dictatorship over there going on, and it's been going on for so many years. And like Buna said, that's the only way it can go on for so long,
And we have to be very careful, because if the French, the Americans, and the West in general, if they realize that FOR is no longer useful to them, they can overthrow him and then put another puppet. Right? This is exactly what happened in Gabon.
That's what they do, yeah.
Gabon, the colonel, I think he used to be a colonel, but now he's general. Anyways, Olingi Gema, right, who staged a coup last year, he has property in the US, right? He's a property owner in the US, right? So it's French neocolonialism being replaced by US neocolonialism. So at times we have these, imperialist rivalry that we should be able, to take advantage of. But unfortunately, the imperialists have, more than one trick in their bag, right? We also have to be very careful of, I trust, our brothers and sisters who are in Togo. Some of them cannot speak up, obviously, because otherwise, those people, they don't care. They can, the police and even the militia, because FOR is now paying a lot of people, who are in desperate situation because of the same policy that he implemented.
To be undercover.
With $150 or even less, he's recruiting militia to go and beat people or even kill people, right? And those are some of the people that he impoverished, right, because of his policies. So our brothers are in a very dire situation, and I think that we should do as much as we can. And this is also why it is so important to have a platform, international Pan-African Black platform like Black Power Media, where we can talk about some issues that are either overlooked or not even talked about on other platforms. I'm not targeting anyone here, just saying that it's very important for us to, have these platforms that allow us to talk about some of the struggle of our brothers and sisters. Because at times, one of the challenges that we have is that we have linguistic barriers, right? So, for example, if you want to speak about the situation in Togo, you most likely have to talk to someone who speaks in French, and he's in Equatorial Guinea. You have to talk to someone who speaks Spanish, probably. So, yeah, I'm really grateful to Black Power Media, and hopefully we can have our brother Dwayne Omawale, Farida. I think Farida is definitely someone that we should have on the platform, and other brothers and sisters, not those who are based in Togo because they'll be in trouble, but maybe those who are in the diaspora talk about the situation in Togo. I spoke too much, sorry, but this hate is giving a lot of energy.
Yeah. No, we appreciate you all laying this out, because when we hear you talking about Togo, one of the things that has been missing from the conversation is the Israeli involvement. When we talk about tyranny and oppression globally, you can bet your last quarter either the French, the Israelis, the US, whatever Spanish-speaking colonizer, Portuguese colonizer, but particularly Israelis, the US, and the French, they have something to do with, they're somewhere in the mix. And so no matter where you are around the globe, particularly in France, because of course we know, you all's great colonizers over there, how much they run rampant, especially in on the continent.
Yep.
I would like to hear more in regards to, I know that the president of Togo is making efforts to get down with the Sahel states. How much of a danger would that be to that particular alliance if they fall for the bait?
Well, that's a very sensitive question. I don't know if we should talk about it now. Not because Fernando and I were having a debate about it, right? But this is a very worrisome tendency because, those three countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they're not coastal countries, right? They don't have access to the sea, right? So one of the tricks that the government of Togo has been using, they've been doing it also for their own self-interest. Because if all the products that go to Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they have to transit through the port of Lomé, it's also a lot of economic resources for Togo. So one of the tricks that Togo has been using is that we're getting closer to the Alliance of Sahelian State. We actually FOR has been a mediator, right? Kind of mediator between the ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, right? Which Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have decided to leave, last year. They're no longer members of ECOWAS. So Togo has been a kind of mediator between ECOWAS and the Alliance of Alien States. And another interesting and very worrisome development is that the government of Togo has been trying to co-opt Pan-African movements in West Africa. He organized at least 3 Pan-African summits over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, paying people to go there, talk about African Renaissance, the importance of African solidarity, Pan-Africanism, blah blah blah. And he even recruited some mercenaries. Right? I'm not going to say names, but some journalists who used to work for French international radio who are now based in Togo, right? Who present themselves as Pan-Africans, right? But we know that they've been paid by the government of Togo. So this is a very, very, very concerning development. But I think those who have been astute and careful enough have been able to spot all the dirty tricks that Faure and his government have been, implementing in order to deceive Africans. Because now the narrative is that the Western government are trying to, the narrative from Faure and his supporters is that the Western government are trying to destabilize Togo, right? So they're saying that the people who are demonstrating are being paid by the West in order to overthrow. This is one of the narratives, and they're very. I mean, if you pay people $50, they can create a fake account on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So this is the type of narrative that they've been spreading. So he has tried to rebrand himself as a Pan-African, despite the fact that he changed the constitution recently, okay, to be president for life. So he's not even president, right? Because he changed the constitution, so he's no longer president, right? So he has a special structure that he created, so he can stay in power until he dies, like his father. But this is something that I think the Pan-Africans have not been. I'm not going to say that they have not paid enough attention to Togo, but I think that the geostrategic and political importance of Togo has maybe been underestimated in the Pan-African circles, especially in West Africa. But hopefully, this type of popular movements that is popping up right now, getting international attention, will enable all of us to give Togo the attention that it deserves, right?
Yeah. Listen, I think Kalonji, you made a good point. Like when you say how dangerous it is, because what Faure is doing is that Faure, he's trying to play both sides. He's trying to play both sides. He's trying to be a Pan-Africanist, and we know he's in bed with the West, with France in particular, but with Israel and with other countries as well. So we know what he's about, and now he's trying to play like that he's a Pan-Africanist. He's trying to, they've been trying to call up Pan-Africanism for a while, but this is what Faure is there for. And he, you can never, of course, the narrative that these are people that are being paid is out there. That's what they always do. Anytime the people rise up somewhere in whatever country, they're going to say that, they're being paid. It's not really, but we know for a fact, because we have comrades on the ground, that the people are together and they know what they want. And they're saying that Faure must go. You know what I mean? And no person that's oppressing their own people can be a Pan-Africanist. That's just not, it's just an oxymoron. So, I think we have to be very careful as far as that. And I hope that, the Sahel states also are careful, even though I know that there is some kind of a relationship there. But, No
doubt. I think that Rakim is muted. He looked like he's saying
some
real
stuff. I just wanted to ask Bruno and Fernando a question, like how Faure has, attempted to have these Pan-African conferences and, floating out the idea that he wants to link with Mali and Burkina Faso. And pretty much, isn't this just to sway public opinion to make himself seem as if, because again, I would think that what's happening in Mali and Burkina Faso has galvanized people in West Africa, right? And so he wants to be seen as someone who is Pan-African and progressive and wants to move Togo forward. But and that's the reason for these this idea of, trying to paint himself to be a Pan-African, when really, again, he's a puppet for the West and a dictator who wants to continue to, get rich off the people.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it right, man. Got it right. I think we can never forget that, Pan-Africanism has to be bottom up, man. You can't just call yourself a Pan-Africanist, and do your people wrong. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got it. I think that's exactly it. What you said,
Yeah, I think that, we see things like this historically as they attempt to shield themselves in progressive movements and Pan-Africanism, but really they have a whole different agenda, man. And that question that Kalanji asked, is definitely dangerous. I would say, the analogy about bad apples, right? Like, and we must, continue to do what you can to protect these movements that we have that seem to be pushing Africa and the diaspora in the right direction. And that would definitely be a bad look. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely see that as being extremely dangerous.
So what we're seeing here is a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Mm-hmm.
This takes place when we talk about how these organizations move, and what Fernando and Buna and yourself, Rakeem, just spoke on in regards to how they come under the cloak of Pan-Africanism, but in fact they are neocons. You know what I'm saying? In fact, their position and their role is the same as many of the quote unquote nonprofits that we see on the ground level. We're all familiar with these organizations, these nonprofits, and these quote unquote grassroots and so on and so forth, whose intent and mission is domination and control. It's about the paper. It's all about the Benjamins. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And the fact is, it's in the very essence, the very nature of it. It is carrying out the mission of hegemony and white supremacy. I was speaking to someone a couple of days ago, and it was talking about a brother that was quote unquote selling drugs, and but he was giving the resources to the community. And I told him that's bullshit. And he's like, well, why would you say that? He does a lot of good and so on and so forth. I said, right now, the way this system operates, someone that would be quote unquote, let's say they're selling drugs, it would be like a roach selling boric acid to other roaches, a watered down version. You understand what I'm saying? Just enough to get them staggering, just to get them to feel high, just to get them to feel a little bit off. You know what I'm saying? But if they got it full strength and direct, it would kill them. So you are willingly operating in a fashion whereas you are killing your people. And this is what's going on not only in Togo, this is what's going on across the globe. They find these Negroes who want to willingly be puppets. Because you can cut the strings off, but cutting the strings off is dangerous. If a puppet cuts his strings off, he can fall, he can be damaged, or the puppeteer might just slay him all together, might throw him away. So these are willing puppets, and they're hanging on by a string. And it's imperative, like you mentioned, that platforms, not only Black Power Media, but platforms across the board, speak on how this thing is connected globally. Again, I'm noticing that there are a lot of nonprofits and what do you call them? Not GMOs. What do you call them?
NGOs.
NGOs. I'm called. Maybe I got it right the first time. GMOs.
Right.
A lot of these,
Right.
yeah, a lot of these NGOs, they're going to these different. They're meeting, attempting to meet with different types of leadership on the continent, and because there's a disconnect between Malema and Dhoruba, because there's a disconnect between, Traore and other African leaders here and abroad, because of the fact that we're not going to be so arrogant to think that revolution is only coming from here. The fact is, there won't be a revolution here in the U.S. as far as we know it. There can't be revolution here because we're in this national security state that has taken the time to reinforce militarization, not only at home but abroad.
Yeah,
you're talking about a quote unquote nation, a settler state that is 5% of the world population, but holds close to 1,000 military bases around the globe. How can you think you're going to have a revolution inside of the belly of it? You're going to be the spook that sat by the door. You're going to be an ulcer. We are in the middle of the penitentiary. We're in the middle of Parchment or Angola or Rikers Island or wherever, USA, talking about we're going to form a revolution. We're fooling ourselves. The fact is, if we don't move internationally, we will self-destruct. But what is taking place right now in colonies like the U.S., what's taking place is that they are dismantling themselves because of their arrogance. Arrogance is the true ulcer of the stomach and of this beast. And it's the same ulcer that's taking place internationally. But what has to happen is Togo is an example of what goes on in any city USA. Togo is an example, but with a black face, of what a Trump is doing here in the US. If he could, he would declare himself president for life.
Mm-hmm.
And Africans in this country would do nothing but complain about it. That's messed up. You can't do that. That's the number one thing we hear across the board is what they can't do. And they do it while we're saying they can't do it.
They can't do it.
You know, keep us abreast as to what's going on in Togo. I know Fernando mentioned 7 folks murdered over the past couple of days. If you could touch on that before we move to the next story, that would be a good thing.
Can I say something very quickly? Just wanted to respond to
Sure.
Rakim's question about actually his remark about how they've been using Pan-Africanism. I think we should not underestimate, the impact, the popularity, and the pervasiveness of Pan-Africanism in the continent right now. People want to liberate themselves from neo-colonial domination. And the imperialists are aware of that. Okay? You know, we're talking about the platforms that are, the voices, of those who are unheard or unspoken of, like Black Power Media. But recently they took down African Stream. And who did it? It was the State Department of the US. Why? Because in Africa, the neo-colonial domination is something that the population in Africa, the masses, the impoverished masses, want to get rid of. Okay? So one of the tricks they have found, not only will they block, suppress, or take down platforms like African Stream, there's another one that used to be very popular in Africa. It's called Afrique Media. It's mainly Francophone. The State Department wrote a report, on Afrique Media, saying that this media should be banned because it's spreading Russian propaganda, anti-Western and Russian propaganda. And that media was followed by millions of people. Okay, I think it has been banned from Facebook, YouTube, and many other platforms, right? So these are alternative. I'm not saying that, the type of content that they have is perfect, but I'm just saying that the type of discourse, okay, and the type of policies they have been promoting is something that is consistent with the aspirations of the African peoples, of the African masses. So people like, or because they have the financial resources, they have invested in so-called Pan-African media. So what those so-called Pan-African media will talk about is about the greatness of our ancestors. Okay, how great we were, in ancient Egypt, or even in the more, recent periods, like in the fight against slavery or in the fight against colonialism. But they will never talk about the neo-colonial puppets that are ruling in the African countries right now. And like I said, they have recruited some very famous journalists, francophone journalists, who have been silent since the turmoil started in Togo. Why? Because they've been paid by the government of Togo to act as Pan-African, okay, Pan-African influencers, right? But now they don't have anything to say because they've been exposed, right? So I think we have reached a stage where African peoples want to liberate themselves, right? From Atlanta to Lomé in Togo. So the empire is trying to deceive, to trick people into believing in, false prophets, right? So they're going to call up someone, present him as a Pan-African leader, but he's just a scam like many others. And so FOR has been trying to do that. I think there are a lot of people who did not fall into that trap, and hopefully he will end up falling into his own trap.
Definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, this is real quick before I speak about, like you said, the seventh death. This is an important teachable moment as well when we talk about, today's culture of the get the bag culture, by any means necessary. This is the type of thing that this creates. It creates people, these so-called leaders that are willing to sell their own people out, their whole country, just for their own personal well-being and wealth. As long as they're doing good, they can hook their little family up, and that's it, and live a good life for themselves and oppress the rest of their people. That's what this type of get the bag culture can lead to, when you're only in that individual Western mentality and you're not thinking about your people and your collective and the well-being of your people. But real quick, to get to these, that's what they're reporting so far, 7 deaths. And, I believe a couple of people were found in the river. I believe there's 2 young people, very young, involved, that's part of these 7 bodies. But what they were doing is that some of them were just, a lot of the military was just out there just straight up beating people, and we've seen real horrific images. Like if you go on social media and you type in the hashtag free Togo, you're gonna see some things, and there's just military just beating up just women, just whatever. And I don't have all the info on the 7 people, but I know they're still looking for people. I know there's over 50 people in prison, and I don't have the numbers on the injuries, but they injured a lot of people as well. So they're extremely violent. They have undercover cops that are playing like, and they have the straight up military out there, and they're still out there. And the protests were done on the 28th. Military is still in there, just standing outside, just making sure that nobody moves. Just scare tactics. We know how they do. They want to scare the people, and so, yeah, but it's been a dictatorship, where people can't speak up. People can't, there's no type of willingness to let the people live,
Yeah, didn't they even outlaw, quote unquote, protesting and organizing in 2022?
Absolutely. And like Buna said, he just makes up his own rules as he goes. He said, now I can be president for, and he writes a law. He's like, now I'm the president for,
and kind of like how Kalanji mentioned, we see the same tactics here used as well. The criminalization of dissent, the criminalization of mobilizing and organizing and protests. I mean, we see it here. They just might call it something different. They may act like, you know, in the media that it's not the same, but it's exactly the same.
That's right.
No doubt.
I'm gonna make just a final note for those who are familiar with, because this year we're also celebrating the century of Malcolm X, right? It was also born in 1925. Like Lumumba, who you mentioned previously, Frantz Fanon, and many others, Medgar Evers and Clovis Moura. They all decided to be born in 1925. I don't know why. But anyways, you know, for those who are familiar with Malcolm X and his speeches, you know, in his final speech, he was talking a lot about Congo, right? He was talking a lot about Congo, Lumumba, and Chombe, right? For those who are familiar, Chombe is the one who assassinated Lumumba, okay? And Malcolm was describing Chombe, who was another black face of white supremacy, as the most despicable human on planet Earth back then. And four is a modern Chombe, right? Four in his family, right? They are modern Chombe because they are the one who assassinated the patriots in Togo, who keep assassinating the patriots in Togo for the sake of Western imperialism. So four is a modern Chombe, and all they will call them puppets are modern Chombes, whether they are in Equatorial Guinea or wherever on the continent, and hopefully they will all fall, like Chombe, who died, you know, of a heart attack in Algeria. So, you know, I'm not calling for, you know, because this is something that can be a war crime, calling for a leader to die, right?
No doubt. Well, we will pray for him to leave as quick as he could. How about that?
Right.
I was about to say something else, but it's been pretty bad. Anyway, you're checking out the Rise Up International Morning Show. We just got an international Gerald Horn style report from Buna and Fernando in regards to the Togo and what's been going on over there, which is definitely necessary. I know that one of the guests, folks mentioned earlier, Dwayne Omwale. Of course, he's not here today, but we appreciate getting a thorough report, because I think that, again, the Togo is one of these spaces that are hardly ever, if ever, mentioned. We talk about the continent of Africa, we talk about world affairs as a whole, so definitely glad to mention. We're celebrating this week the 81st year born date of my brother, my OG, my comrade, you know what I mean? Somebody that has folks sweating like you know, with those napkins over there. You know, my man Dhoruba Bin Wahad.
Salute Dhoruba.
No doubt. We also celebrate one of our other legends this week. No, I mean, hold on. Let me get this back. So we had Kwame Ture,
Yes,
formerly Stokely Carmichael, on the 29th. We have Dhoruba Bin of June. We had Dhoruba Bin Wahad on June 30th, and today we have who Malcolm called the greatest freedom fighter to come up out of Africa, Patrice Lumumba. We commemorate his born date. We've had his daughter on this platform, Julia Lumumba. So make sure you go back and check out the interview we had with her. And you know, definitely, man, definitely. This is Freedom Fighter Week. We're gonna declare Freedom Fighter Week right here on Black Power Media. So we definitely appreciate you all for sticking in with us. I think I'm gonna throw a little bit of Dhoruba on real quick, if that's all right with y'all. I had another clip, you know, and
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, stay on point.
Rise up.
National Morning Show. Let's get it.
Is a violent one. The seizure of the North American landmass from the Aboriginal inhabitants was a decidedly violent and genocidal undertaking. The use of African chattel slavery and free labor to create the foundation for America's wealth and prosperity, and to launch the Industrial Revolution in North America was steeped in ruthless cruelty and maintained by an omnipresent threat of violence. Early 20th century projections of the U.S. power into Central America, the Caribbean, and elsewhere proceeded in the wake of gunboats and relied upon the bayonets of soldiers and Marines. The cliche that the West was won by the six-shooter, by the gun, is often glorified in American folklore. White Americans, the settlers that exterminated the native peoples, that stole their land, that erected the Republic of the United States out of a colonial enterprise, had almost a religious addiction to firearms and guns. Indeed, they said that God created man and Samuel Colt made him equal. God created man and the gun manufacturer Samuel Colt, guns made human beings equal. This is the mentality of white America. This mentality has persisted from its earliest inception to this very day. It has been argued by historians and sociologists alike that early American westward expansion created a uniquely American fascination with guns and violence, and the resort to force as the arbiter of conflict. I wanted you to understand that where I grew up, where I came from, was a nation that worshiped power and violence. That violence, as Imam Jamil Al-Amin, a political prisoner right now in the U.S., formerly known as Rap Brown, once said, that violence is as American as cherry pie. And this is true. The enslavement of African people and their introduction into the so-called New World began when the Europeans began to colonize and conquer the North American landmass. Now we have to understand something. That African people that were brought to what would become the United States came from different parts of Africa, speaking different languages, having different religious beliefs and faiths and cultural differences, but we were melded into one people, having one history in the crucible of chattel slavery and white supremacy. And this is very important to remember, because the African diaspora, which some of you represent, was not a coincidence. It is a direct consequence of European imperialism, empire, and the social construct of white supremacy.
What's up? We are back. We are live and direct. That was Dhoruba Bin Wahad. That was a throwback. Definitely happy birthday to
Indeed.
the comrade, to the OG, who's on the continent right now. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I'm just gonna say this because here it is, a man who served as a political prisoner. His last stint was 19 years. He served about 27 years of his life in prison. He's 81 years old. He's watched many of his comrades transition. A few I've known myself over over the past few years. I mean, I know that collectively, the two of us, we probably lost about 7 comrades in the last 2 years. He's still here. We've been on many missions together. I can honestly say that I learned a lot from him. Our relationship is unique. It's sort of like he's my big brother, uncle at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I'm his children's uncle. He's someone that I feel like has not gotten his props. Not that he's looking for props. He has not gotten his credit, so on and so forth. And he's contributed so much to our people's liberation movement, so much so that some of it will not be discussed until he's gone. And that's an actual fact. If folks knew the half, they would shut the fuck up and listen.
Facts.
You wouldn't call yourself a revolutionary. You wouldn't call yourself certain things because of the fact that you would understand that you should forever be a student. And I've watched him with people he considered his teachers. You know what I'm saying? And recently, Kiana, Joy James, myself, and Dhoruba, we had the opportunity to be on the show together. I think it was just us, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a very powerful and very important show because
it was.
You see this man emotional. I've seen him shed tears twice since I've known him.
When was that? I missed it. Was it like recently?
Yeah, this must have been like
last week?
A couple months ago.
No, it was some months ago.
Yeah, it was emotional for sure, man.
Yeah, it was because, and I've seen the link. It was we was talking about the book actually, and one of the questions we asked was about his comrades that transition, and like I said, I've seen him. That was only the second time I've seen him get emotional like that. But the point is, we salute Dhoruba for his birthday, for his work, so on and so forth. Dhoruba has stage 4 cancer. He's been battling that. It's under wraps right now, but he's still going through treatment. And so he has to fly to the U.S. because he lives in Africa. He has to fly to the U.S. for his medical treatment. And we're going to, before we clock out, we're going to, put up his GoFundMe because he has to get serious medical treatment. And so I think that we all should support that brother, and we'll go from there. Anybody else got anything to say about Dhoruba, how he's impacted? I don't know how many of you have met him in real life. Do I want to speak on him?
Yeah, I have to say something about Dhoruba because the same way Dhoruba feels about many of the comrades that he's lost, that y'all have lost, I feel that way about Dhoruba. I can't let him down. I can't let him down. He's worked for too long. He's done way too much. And it's all been in the name of African liberation. So when, people ask me about certain things, because y'all know I draw a lot of hard lines and I don't make apologies for it because I think about Dhoruba. Because Dhoruba sat behind a wall for a long time for me to be able to do what I do. And there's no way in hell that I'm going to take the sacrifice of Dhoruba, of Kamal Siddiqui, of Imam Jamil Al-Amin, of Mumia, Assata Shakur, of the Pendleton 2. I'm not going to take their sacrifices and cosplay with it because this shit is not a game. life is real and it's happening. And when I think about the fact that I even had an opportunity to share space and time with Dhoruba, there's nothing that I can ever think that I would rather have than having had that opportunity to express my gratitude and to try to help people understand why I go so hard. And it's because there is a Dhoruba Bin Wahad. So I'm always grateful for Dhoruba and all that he's done.
Indeed.
Yeah,
My
definitely.
sentiments exactly. I would just also like to say Dhoruba is also one of the most brilliant minds that we have in this space. Uh, not to mention, obviously, the work that he has put in, but even like his writings. I implore you all to go study that up and listen to his analysis on what's happening in this world and our place in it. I mean, this is some of the best analysis you'll see. So again, we appreciate Dhoruba for all his sacrifices, all his work. You know what I'm saying? And Black Power salute to Dhoruba Bin Wahad.
No doubt, no doubt. You can't never say enough about Dhoruba Bin Wahad. Everything that he stands for. He's definitely one of our greats, and unfortunately, we usually don't realize that until they're gone. But it's important for us to do this right now, and I appreciate all of you for being here, and we have to. He's like you said, we have to mention him when we talk about, because a lot of times we just think about those that are no longer with us or that are still behind bars, and like you said, everything that Dhoruba has done for because he loves his people, that's what it is, for the love of the people in the name of African liberation. So
Indeed.
give thanks and salute to Dhoruba always.
But
Thank you.
I just want to say something too to kind of piggy off again what Kiana said. Like she mentioned, like as far as cosplaying this shit, right? That's like that was a bar because those brothers and sisters that came before us, it was not it was their life. It wasn't a cosplay type of thing. I'm gonna be a revolutionary on the weekends. You know what I'm saying? It's easy for us again, and even like Kalanji mentioned, even calling yourself the term revolutionary. I remember when I believe it was during the Free Huey campaign, and I can't remember whether it was Kwame Ture or H. Rap Brown, or I can't remember who it was, Bobby Seale, but they were like, hey, Huey's the only real revolutionary in America, right? Because there was something that you had to do. There was work that you had to put in order to be able to call yourself that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to add on with that. But again, Black Power salute to Dhoruba Bin Wahad.
Right. No doubt. Yep. Anybody else? Isaac, Boona?
You want to go first, Boona? I can go. Okay.
Go ahead.
When I first came into like understanding what the Black radical tradition was, one of the first individuals that I came across, or at least a video, was in my early years of learning and growing, and I still am, mind you, everybody here on this platform is I came across a video that had Sister Souljah, Cornel West, and Dhoruba Bin Wahad, and it was just, you seen like the levels of radical ideology all collectively at some point come together and then disagree. And it was like the beauty of dialectics that I seen amongst the African masses. I respect Dhoruba not just for the sacrifice, and I also want to acknowledge the pain that we all feel, because we've all lost, or we all have someone in our family that has been affected by the constraints of capitalism and corporate greed, which we all know that prisons fall in line with that. the pain is always going to be there. And the only way that we riddle away that is if we, as a group of Africans, mass group, come together to make sure that we see liberation. And Dhoruba has laid out a platform, has laid out a blueprint for us to follow. In, you know, knock on wood, you know, something happens. And I think that it is disrespectful for a lot of people that like the cosplaying of revolutionaries, when people right now are risking their lives still to make sure that we all have the liberties that we have here, to be able to put our beautiful black faces on screen and be able to talk about empire. People have sacrificed their whole entire life and are sacrificing their lives now. And so, you know, supporting Dhoruba in this time is very, very, very effective, because at the end of the day, he's given everything. He's given everything so that individuals like me, individuals like Buna, individuals again like Rakim, Fernando, Kiana, Natasha, Ikemba, Kalanji, everybody here, you know, and many others have been able to learn from. And so the best we can do is, you know, help out in his, you know, to help him, you know, through right now is living under capitalism and being a victim of cancer. It's, you know, it's unfortunate. And, you know, I just want to give, you know, love and respect to, you know, Kiana for showing, you know, the emotion. It is hard for us to, you know, consolidate, for us to hold, you know, it's a lot. And so, you know, I deeply respect my comrade for being able to, you know, feel comfortable enough to you know, to tell us, because, you know, this stuff does hurt, you know. As Kalanji has said, you know, we're Gen Pop, you know, prisoners of warfare, you know, have it harder than we do, but that does not mean that we're free. There is no African that's free right now. And, you know, Dhoruba is a victim of that. We all are. And so the best we can do is support him, wish him a happy birthday, and wish him, you know, again, nothing but the best, you know, moving forward to our ability. So I hope I didn't go overboard.
No, all good, all good. Thanks for that. I think Buna, you had something to say?
Once again, I would like to shout out to Black Power Video. Yeah, maybe I should clarify that I wasn't paid by Kalanji to say what I'm going to say right now, right? Because there's something. Yeah, I'm saying that because, you know, it's through Black Power Media that I first, you know, knew about Dhoruba. I think it was 2021 or, you know, around that year. And I actually met him in 2022 in France, in Paris. He came for a lecture. Actually have some of his books. Not the last one because, you know, Kalanji didn't send me a copy. So I'm still waiting for a copy of Revolution this time. But I have the previous one. So this one is in French, German, and his political writings, French, German, and English. And also this one, Still Black, Still Strong. And also wanted to shout out to Black Power Media because I think some of the best resources that I found on Dhoruba, his work, his political philosophy, his outlook, was also on Black Power Media, especially the interviews that he conducted a few years ago. I guess was during COVID or a couple of years ago with Kalanji. And I remember one of the most, you know, rewarding interviews that I watched on Black Power Media was an interview between Kalanji and Dhoruba. You know, the quality back then was not as good as now, right? Kalanji was like in the safe house, right?
You won't be getting paid, but go ahead.
Anyway, I think people can still find in Black Power Media, definitely. And to me, the most important lessons that I learned from Dhoruba is that one of the challenges that the new generation of activists, talking about myself and those the same age or those who follow me, is that we are somehow disconnected with our radical history. Okay, and the fact that someone like me who didn't know Dhoruba until 2021 is a proof to that, right? Mm-hmm. So we are disconnected with our radical history, and since we are disconnected with our radical history, and this is, I'm paraphrasing Dhoruba, I don't know if this is the exact terms that he used. say that because we are disconnected with our radical history, we are tempted to reinventing failure, right? This is something very important lesson that I learned from Dhoruba. And since then, I haven't stopped, you know, he actually triggered my interest in learning, learning more about radical history, radical Black history on the continent and in the diaspora. Not the history that we are taught at school, not the history that we are taught in PhD, courses or master courses, but the lessons that you can learn when you follow Black Power Media, when you read Dhoruba. And I think this is a piece of advice that is very important for us to bear in mind because, like Dhoruba said, there are a lot of fights that we are fighting right now that they have already won, their generation. And since we are not learning enough from them, I think we might face some of the challenges that, we could have avoided if we were more careful, if we paid more attention, and if we had more interest to the, fights that were carried out by people like Dhoruba.
Yeah, I am feeling right now that one, we need to be sensitive and attentive when the energy shifts and when spirit is taking us in a different direction, because right now this conversation about Dhoruba is really leading me into the amplification of why it is that we are all here, why a platform like Black Power Media is important, and the fact that in thinking about Dhoruba, it reminds us of how it is that we can get caught up into organizing in silos. And when we begin to organize in silos, sometimes we are so doggedly focused on one thing that is extremely local, like hyper local, that we forget about what it really means to be a Pan-Africanist and how it is that we are supposed to connect with other spaces, places, and people within movement, that it is all the movement, that there are different sections, that there are different factions, but that it is all intersectional. And as you talk about Buna, as you talk about not really knowing who Dhoruba was in 2021, that resonates with me so much because Kalanji always says, like, I'm Brother Frank's #1 fan. And I am, because I think about Brother Frank and the work that he's doing with political prisoners in youth. And the fact that I always say that I'm getting my entire education about political prisoners from Brother Frank, because of course we've known the name of Mumia, we've known the name of Assata Shakur, we've known the name of formerly known as H. Rap Brown, but our beloved Imam Jamil Alameen, we've known the name Kamal Siddiqui, but who knew about the Pendleton 2? I did not know about the Pendleton 2 before last year or 2023. I did not know about a lot of our political prisoners before 2023. And it was all in the context of movement work. So when I think about how Dhoruba is one such person who brings together all of this radical history, because it all ties back to, like, you cannot study anything about Mumia without studying something about Assata. You can't study anything about Assata without going back to the Black Panthers. You're not studying Black Panthers without going back to the Young Lords. You're not studying the Young Lords without talking about how we've had counterinsurgency in our communities, because you think about people like Adam Clayton Powell and figureheads that were deliberately placed in our communities to keep us at bay. And it brings you right back to the moment that we're in. So when you say, Buna, that Dhoruba taught you about not repeating and falling into the same pitfalls, knowledge of our ancestors and yet to be ancestors, but who are still fighting for us and teaching us and helping us. This is literally what Black Power Media is about, and how many of us have come together because somebody somewhere found a way to connect us because of the intersectionality of the work we do. No, we can't all be in Atlanta fighting against Cop City, but certainly the work of Pan-African League Umoja is still fighting against Cop. Doesn't have to be.
We lost you for a second there.
Am I back now?
Well, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
No,
but
you're
as
back.
we think about it, it doesn't have to be a physical structure that is a cop city when we think about the heightened surveillance that many of us live under in this time, that all of us honestly live under in these times. What that means for us, how it ties back to the oppression of the Palestinians, how it ties back to the oppression of the Sudanese and the Congolese and the Togolese, just imperialism and colonialism overall. This is how we get to where we are right now, all of us right here at this time, doing the work that we do and making sure that we not only honor a Dhoruba Bin Wahad, but that we truly walk in the mandate that we've been given as Pan-African revolutionaries.
Right on. Definitely appreciate y'all adding on. We're gonna go to one more quick Black Power break, or what Kiana call it, because she changed the whole name.
Yeah.
You ain't got to always say Kiana changed the name, like y'all was with it. Don't
We
act
are with it, but we need you to clarify real quick.
I mean, y'all
Go ahead.
acting like we was. You know what? Let me not even use that analogy. Never mind. But this is
Oh,
like
nah.
I feel like a Kim Kardashian Ray J situation right here. Like, don't act
Wait,
like you
wait.
wasn't with it. You was with it.
Yo. I didn't know how to respond to that. 'Cause
Break. We're going on break.
all I remember is the song he put out. I don't know the joint. Was like, I had a
We
verse.
literally,
Yeah.
you know, my rationalization was I say Black Power ups instead of a break for Black Power, because Black Power don't take a break. And when we say Black Power, we put our fists up. So I always say Black Power ups.
Well,
But you know, take it or don't. It is what it is.
I'm a tad bit confused about the Ray J.
The analogy.
Kim Kardashian.
Don't act like
analogy.
you wasn't with it. Do not act like you wasn't with it. If you ain't confused, don't act like you wasn't
I'm
with
gonna
it.
quote my brother and say it was too much feminine toxicity in this speech right here. I'm about to go. I'm gonna take this quick, real quick. We're
I'm
gonna be right back with y'all.
dead.
This is
Rise
Black
up.
Power Media. Rise up.
Lanji, are you gonna play the new intro of Amandla?
Oh yeah, I
Folks should
forgot
know
you.
about that.
Oh, they should know about it. Well, you need to
I
tell them
would
about
love
it. when you
it.
get back on.
You better
Hey.
play the clip that I sent you yesterday, right?
Now you making
Are you
threats.
gonna lead us in?
Yeah, exactly. He will
Of course.
after we come back, because he gonna line it up. He ain't working me. I'll be Black Power Media. We'll be back in a minute.
We have a legacy of struggle that goes all the way back to the first sister and the first brother that screamed in anguish, that was taken through the door of no return in West Africa and brought here in chains. And all those nights and all those days that our ancestors were whipped and beaten and worked these plantations and had their babies snatched from them, all these years they prayed for people like us. I like to look at it that they prayed for me. They said one day I would come along and I won't quit. I won't stop. And I always tell Kalanji when we're confronted with something that seems totally almost suicidal, I remind them nobody gets out of this life alive. You know, and it's what we leave behind us that really matters. It's what we leave with the other generation that really matters. So when our ancestors in the bullwhip days said, "Hurry, sundown, see what tomorrow bring," they were hoping for us. They were praying for us. That one day we will hold our enemies, our people's oppressors, these enemies of the sun, we will hold them accountable. We will hold them accountable, as Malcolm said, by any means necessary. And so I take that to mean, ever since I joined the Black Panther Party, that true democracy requires understanding and a mutual humanity between people who have conflicts. We have to recognize each other's humanity. But white supremacy, that artificial construct, does not recognize our humanity, does not see us as human beings. So I realized long ago when we first went underground that if there's going to be democracy, if there's going to be any type of democratic distribution, any type of democratic dispensation, there has to be an equal distribution of the pain. And our enemy has to understand and appreciate our humanity. They have to cry like us. They have to moan like us. They have to say, when is this going to stop? What can we do to change this? And they won't do that until you start making them understand that you're a human being and you bleed like us. You suffer like us. We love our children just like you love your children. And we will not let you kill us and not hold you to account.
Welcome
This
back.
is Rise Up International Morning Show. Everybody looking like they don't know where they're supposed to be around this time. That was that was the show we mentioned earlier with Dr. Joy James, Reverend Kiana Jones, Dhoruba, and myself. It's a very powerful piece. You know, if you missed that, make sure you go back and check that out. It's Revolution in These Times. Revolution in These Times is also a book that we dropped with, as Boona mentioned, and I appreciate the kind words. Boona don't ever give me no credit, so it's just like, you know.
Still waiting for my copy.
Yeah, I
Same
know
here.
that's
Same
what
here.
that was.
We're waiting for that
see,
for that French shipment, man.
Oh, the French shipment. Yeah, I got Kiana shipping out of the French with those Ray J tapes she's talking about. So we can so hold on, sound like he's still playing in the background. Is that right?
No.
Okay.
We don't hear.
Maybe I'm hearing something in my headphones. But anyway, the point what I was making is we actually that the book Revolution in These Times is a piece that we put out with Dhoruba. Dr. Joy James did the forward for it, and it's a number of different. So to Boona's point, yeah, there's been a lot of dynamite interviews throughout the years. You know, didn't get to put all of them in it, but we put enough in it because I think that one of the things that this brother has is a analysis. We posted on the platform a couple days ago. We posted about one of the speeches he gave, talk he gave at the National Political Hip Hop Convention back in 2008, 2007 or 2008. You should definitely go back and check that out. And there's also a piece where him and then Congressman Keith Ellis had a back and forth. I believe he's the Attorney General over there now in Missouri. But
I love that one. That reminded me of me and Stacey Abrams last year.
You and Stacey Abrams. Is that on tape? We might need to check that one out. What y'all think?
Yeah, we need that.
But look here, honey, what it was Stacey Abrams was spreading some misinformation, and I was like, no, ma'am, no ham, no turkey. It ain't happening today.
You got it on tape? You got it on tape?
I don't know. I know that my husband had it. I don't know if we still have it because this was all about childcare when I was focusing heavily on childcare organizing and having to correct some things that she was saying during her gubernatorial run this last time around. And I don't believe in giving you a pass just because you're a Black woman. Like, we can go back and forth because if you don't know me, then get to know me. I be down with the shit. Like, you just saw me crying, but that don't mean nothing.
Right on. You see Kiana crying, that means she about to fight. Anyway, so my good brother Boona mentioned a show, and for folks who haven't caught that show, give us a run on what a mandala is about and how many episodes have you all done so far, and what could we expect coming up?
Yeah, so Amanda is a show with historian, political activist Dr. Joe Horn, who is probably one of the favorite guests on the Black Power Media, not only in Rise Up Morning Show, but other shows in Black Power Media. So I think we've done five episodes, right? So each episode we try to cover at least one of the books that Dr. Joe Horn has published over the years, which will take us probably to 2040, right? If we want to cover all the books, right? Because I think he just published his 50th book or 51st book titled The Capital of Slavery, which I haven't read yet, obviously, because it's just been out and it's not available for purchase right now in France. But anyways, I think that the latest one was it with you, Fernando? No, it was with Leonardo. Leonardo. So we have several guests. We have one guest, sorry, and several hosts, including it's also international show, right? So we have Sister Malika, the Pan African League Moja, brother Fernando. Yeah, he was also on one of the shows. The show that we did on Mexico, I believe, was the third or the second episode. And we're looking forward to having Reverend Kenyatta, right? Reverend Kenyatta definitely need you on that show. So it's once a month.
And where the host from? Because you did mention it's international, and
Yeah,
folks
the
be
host,
thinking that we faking.
So Malika is sister from Gabon, right? Also Gabon in Benin, right? We have Natasha, whom everybody knows, the Black Power Media, and also brother Leonardo, who's from South Africa. So he's based in Johannesburg. I think the latest show that we did was on. Yeah, we covered two of the books that are written by Gerald Hord. So it was on the relationship between African Americans and Japan, right? So how Japan defeated white supremacy in the 1940s and the impact that it had on African American engagement with international allies. So we coming up with a brand new intro and outro. So make sure you check it out. Next episode will probably be out by the end of this month. So it's once a month, every last Monday of the month. Yeah, every last week of each month. So last time we covered 2 books. That's why we didn't have a show on June. We're definitely gonna have at least 1 or 2 shows on in July, right? So yeah, once again, thank you very much, Black Point Media, for hosting us.
I love Amandla, by the way. I did not see the
thank you.
last episode, but I have definitely been following. I try my best to keep up as much as I can because I love Vital Hoops for the culture. It's always for the people, by the people, for the culture. Love Vital Hoops, love We Charge Colonialism, Amandla, of course, Political Prisoners, and you, Warrior Class, Rupturing the Aesthetic, Thought of the Whirlwind, all of the offerings that we have on Black Power Media. I try my best to follow, support, because it's all really, really vital information, particularly for us who call ourselves Pan-African revolutionaries and want to see us liberated and free and self-determined. So I appreciate you, Buna, and all the work that y'all have been doing on Amandla.
Thank you.
No doubt, no doubt. Again, you're checking out Black Power Media. This is the Rise Up International Morning Show, your favorite morning show. Top of the morning. What else they be saying? Grand Rising. What else they say? Bogota. We in the building. Whatever y'all want to say. Y'all know it's that time of the day. You know what I'm saying? We are happy to be here today and always. We're gonna stick around for a short little while. Bona was alluding to these clips that he sent me like 5 minutes ago. Like I'm gonna just have them loaded up like right away. You think I'm a producer or something, even though I am supposed to be today, but clearly that ain't working out too well. However, I think we got a little bit of time for another story. Kiana, what you got on deck?
Well, as Buna alluded to.
I think Buna part of the pitch too. Where he fanning the fires.
Right? It is hot. And
why
for those
is it so
of us
hot?
who are, well, first of all, global warming, doggone it. Like it's a real thing, no matter what they say. Climate change is real. Because we have some people on the Public Service Commission in Georgia who want you to believe that climate change, that those are just 2 words that people threw together that don't mean anything, but they are real. Like they do have real meaning. And this big, beautiful bill that people are alluding to here stateside, and this big, beautiful bill is an omnibus bill that would cut a lot of funding for things that are essential. You hear some people talking about the big, beautiful bill as it relates to Medicaid or Medicare, different types of healthcare services. You hear people talking about the big, beautiful bill bringing cuts to the low income home energy assistance program or LIHEAP. You hear people talking about this bill in relation to a myriad of cuts to services that help people with resources and community. And one of the things that this bill would also cut is renewable energy provisions and AI regulation. How are renewable energy and AI related, you ask? Well, let me tell you, because I'm glad you asked. If you live anywhere in these yet to be United States of America, I'm pretty sure that there has been some conversation on the state level or perhaps the municipal level about something called data centers. These data centers look like huge warehouses. They take up a lot of space in your neighborhood, and you would think that something that big coming into your community would bring a bunch of jobs, but they don't. Data centers usually employ one, maybe two people at most, and they are simply there to provide security. And all data centers are warehouses to house servers, period. That's it. But why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because data centers, number one, take up vital land that's needed for housing and green recreational space. Oftentimes, a large tract of land is cleared that has trees, so you're destroying tree canopy, making it hotter in your area. And I can attest to that because y'all know I'm in Atlanta, the metro Atlanta area. I'm in Decatur specifically, but about 2 miles away from my old neighborhood where they built Cop City, where they destroyed 381 acres of forest land. And now there is a heat dome in that area. So these things do have real environmental effects. But the issue with data centers, beyond the fact that they take up all of this land and don't provide jobs, is that they take an enormous amount of energy to power them and even more water to keep them cool. So that speaks directly to energy burden most of the time in Black neighborhoods, because there are not data centers in predominantly white neighborhoods. Right now in Atlanta specifically, we have 20 proposals south of I-20. That means if you are in Southwest Atlanta, South Fulton, that area going south, there's probably a data center being proposed in your area. If you're in Clayton County, where it is predominantly Black and Latine, there are data centers being proposed in your area. And what happens when data centers come, not only do they increase your individual energy bills, because in the state of Georgia specifically, data centers get special tax breaks. The Public Service Commission refuses to regulate how much energy can be funneled to them by Georgia Power, and they will not mandate that Georgia Power use renewable energy, which is an option because Georgia is in the Sun Belt. And we are also the producer of, well, we are the home of the largest solar panel factory in the United States. Like Q Cells is here in Dalton, Georgia. But what happens is that there are environmental effects that begin to take place, and you're going to have some health effects when data centers are in your area. There's going to be a low drone, like a constant drone and humming, and it's loud. So that noise pollution is happening. But then you're going to get this wastewater runoff from all of the water that's being used to cool the data center. So that's not only making your energy bill go up, it's also making your water bill go up, and it's taken away from the water supply, but it's polluting the water supply. And this is what people don't want to talk about. And this is the reason why in this bill, this big, beautiful bill, these provisions would make it so that there are relaxed, if any, regulations on data centers and AI. So because data centers are tied to AI regulation, that means that data centers would just get off scot-free. And we're already battling a lot of that because our Public Service Commission in Georgia in particular does not mandate that our energy provider, Georgia Power, tell us how much energy it takes to power data centers. So when you think about all of these things, right, the heat dome that's been created, particularly because they keep destroying tree canopy, but the data centers coming into the area. And you know that with more electricity production and use, there is more heat naturally. So we're all going to be doing this. Last week in Atlanta, the heat index was over 100 every day of the week.
Yeah, that wasn't fun at all. Trust me.
At all.
I'm trying to. So again, this is why I love this particular side of the work that we do, right? Because many of our folks are clueless when it comes to climate change when it comes to data centers, when it comes to what you mentioned in regards to a heat dome.
Mm-hmm.
Just having an understanding, if you don't mind, because I know that Bona thought it was just hot in France because they arrogant over there. White folks think that they like we're the only colonizers over here. So anyway, explain to people what a heat dome is and why what you're saying is important and why it's detrimental, not only how it's affecting us here locally, because you mentioned Dalton, Georgia, and Dalton is, for folks who don't know, it's closer to Tennessee. It's North Georgia. In fact, oddly enough, I spoke out there one year with a rapper named Ace Hood. There weren't too many of us out there, but for some reason they thought it'd be cool for me to be out there with a rapper that wasn't talking about nothing conscious, but nevertheless we was there. But for folks who don't know what when you're talking about a heat dome, let's talk about that. And let's these trees and whatnot, because again, we're talking about you mentioned how you mentioned Cop City and the devastation on the forest there. Give people an idea of what Atlanta is, what it's like, what Georgia is when we're talking about the forestry and how important it is to our very lives.
Yeah, Georgia and Atlanta in particular used to be home to the largest urban forest in the southeastern United States. That's the South River Forest, and that is where they have built Cop City. The South River Forest was what was known as one of the 4 lungs of Atlanta, meaning this was one of the 4 areas of concentrated tree canopy that we needed to have a decent air quality, and we literally needed those trees in order to breathe. Cutting down those trees is like one of your lungs in your body collapsing, where you are now having extreme difficulty breathing. And that is essentially what's happened to the air quality in Atlanta, is that those trees being missing have now added to increased depreciation in the air quality in Atlanta. When you think of a heat dome, I want you to think about a snow globe and think about how everything inside of a snow globe is compressed. Heat domes are created when you take away things like tree canopy, when you take away clean running water, and you pretty much stir up some circumstances that are going to increase the heat in an area. And there's really nowhere else for the methane gas to go that's going to be created by some of the things that you've done to cause the heat dome. So now you're just in an area where it feels like you're stifling. When we have these times of increased humidity and extreme heat, that is because of the heat dome effect. It's literally high pressure areas, and it's just everything is going down to the ground because there are no trees and there's nothing up here to catch any of the free radicals that are in the air, any of the particulate matter that's being released into the atmosphere because of construction, for instance, because of something like a data center pulling more energy. Everything is concentrated in that one area. Trees cannot absorb to freshen up that air, for lack of a better term, to purify the air, I would say. And everything just goes right back down. And it's usually in the form of heat. And if you consider a residential neighborhood and people have their AC units, most people are running their ACs right now. Because of the fact that there's a heat dome that's been created, people are having to use more energy to power their ACs because they need it cooler in their homes. But it sets up this paradigm of circular function wherein you're running your AC more, you're creating more heat in the atmosphere, you're creating more heat in the atmosphere, so you're running your AC more. So it's like you're just going around and around and around, and it doesn't do anything good for the environment. But this happens mainly because of the burning of fossil fuels by energy providers like Georgia Power, whose parent company is Southern Company, and they have Georgia Power, Alabama Power, Mississippi Power. So here in the Southeast in particular, we are experiencing this heat dome effect at an elevated level because Georgia Power, Southern Company in particular, has doubled down on its fossil fuel use. We have coal plants here that were supposed to have been retired by 2028, but now because of the Trump administration and their rollback on environmental regulations, those plants will not be retired until at least 2035. But it's likely that they are going to go beyond. And the Southern Company is also now experimenting dual firing gas and coal turbines at the same time. They have gas and hydrogen experiments going on at the same time. They want you to believe that methane gas, although it's natural technically, is good for you and that it's a good alternative. And they refuse to consider any type of clean renewable energy. I mean, you have public service commissioners here writing op-eds about biomass and how that's the next clean renewable frontier for the state of Georgia. So we're in a really bad situation environmentally because these country bumpkins who are extremely racist don't care about anything but money coming into the state of Georgia because they want us to be the best state to do business, but they could care less about this being the best state for people to live, work, or raise their families.
If I can,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for breaking that down, man. This is so key, and the way you broke it down was so perfect because I think we have to understand that how important that is for us because our people are always the first ones that are being hurt by this, by being affected by this, and we have to understand, our enemy has no chill. Like this has been going on for years and years and years since the beginning. They started with the ecosystems. You know what I mean? Before they even got to us, they started with the ecosystems, and we have to understand, they do the same thing in Brazil, in one of the lungs of the earth with the Amazon forest and everything. They cut down trees. They keep going and going. They have no chill. They're gonna keep going. This is one of the reasons why we have to struggle because they're gonna keep going until there's no clean anything, until all the ecosystems are down. And they gonna wear a mask, try to go to the moon and colonize the moon or colonize some other, So the way you broke it down is so key for us to understand. Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think people keep missing things. Like where I live right now is DeKalb County. This is where I'm born and raised too. So DeKalb is very near and dear to my heart. But we're under a federal consent decree, and while these politicians are running around here trying to look cute and get reelected, we have a CEO in DeKalb County who has never enforced the federal consent decree that mandates that things have to be fixed in our water supply. These politicians are content to allow us to keep being poisoned in our water and not fixing things, while at the same time they are raising water bills, and people have $80,000 and $62,000 water bills in DeKalb County. And people got to understand that Flint was the tip of the iceberg. What's going on in Mississippi doesn't make sense that they can continue to contaminate the water and not be made to fix it. But it's all because this is a high concentration of Black people in one place and they don't give a damn. When the story broke about Flint, Michigan, I was living in New Jersey at the time. And what we found through an environmental study is that there were 12 municipalities in New Jersey with lead levels in water higher than Flint, Michigan. But nobody was talking about it because these were predominantly Black areas. And I guarantee you that these things are still happening across the country. And this is the reason why, the same way I say, like, everything is intersectional and we all have to intersect at some point in movement. We cannot separate racial justice from environmental justice, because environmental justice is racial justice, is reproductive justice, is economic justice, is childcare justice, is healthcare justice. It is justice for us. It all pertains to us.
Right.
No doubt, no doubt. This is again, how many morning shows can you go to and you hear folks breaking down the ecosystem, breaking down the importance of us having trees for more than just climbing and getting cats out of them. You know what I mean? So, very important. We definitely appreciate you breaking it down, Kiana. And again, the beauty of having organizers with different skill sets and different specialties. Because as you mentioned earlier, Kiana, you have, some of us are more in tune or adept to certain issues. There's things that, each one of us can bring to the table that, that we all can learn from. And sometimes we're not going to agree with, each other's analysis, respect the analysis based on the intent. But also they say that man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. So when we're looking to win, you will forever be a student.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so that is one of the things I'm grateful about. Not only having ancestors, OGs, elders, but also folks that are younger than me that I learned from. You know what I mean? But we can never be so arrogant that we think that, we got all the answers, because in the mortal words of Boona's favorite rapper, Kanye, you ain't got all the answers, Sway. So anyway, Boona, you're going to be all right. You check it out, the Rise Up Morning Show, Black Power Media. What else we got going on? Any remarks? We almost at our ending point for today. We're definitely appreciative of everyone coming through. Anything we need to know? What's going on? Fernando, look like something's big happening over there in his colony. What's good, brother?
Hey man, actually, to be honest, right now, this month, I'm not sure what's going on. There's always something going on, but right now, I don't know. I just want to say, man, today, it was a good show, man. I thought, it was ups and downs emotionally. It got to me. We spoke about a lot of things. Dhoruba and what's going on in Togo. Like I said before, I got the comrades over there. So, and I know the people are, the people need our support, and like you said, the Togo is one of the countries where, not a lot of people are speaking on it, but we need to. So definitely want to encourage the people, like I said, to check out the hashtag Free Togo, and also add to it if you can, just to support if you're online, Free Togo. It always helps. That's what the comrades say over there. And thank you to everybody checking us out, man. We here, we gonna be here, and we appreciate everybody, man.
Absolutely.
So Boona, when's the next Mandala dropping?
Probably 25th of July.
July. Okay.
Yeah,
it's a long time, brother.
Make sure that we'll make sure that Reverend Kenyana will be on for it.
Okay.
I could have listened to her for
checking
2 hours, when she was explaining, the impact of data centers. So when we were saying that a lot of our folks don't have a clue about it, that includes me.
But that's purpose by design. That is definitely by design.
No, I think this, the way you broke it down was absolutely fabulous. So I think that we should make, reels, clips, whatever we can, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, YouTube, to make sure that, the message is conveyed to those, that are most affected by, climate change. And usually it's our community that are, disproportionately
always
impacted by climate change. And there's kind of racial division of labor, whereby you have people, activists, like people like us will only talk about racism. At least this is what, people want us to do, talk about racism, discrimination, blah, blah. And some white experts will talk about global warming. Okay, right? And the fact that we have people like Reverend Kenyana, right, who are knowledgeable, have the technical expertise, not only in abstract terms, like generally, but also how it's impacting people in her own community, right? I think this is really the type of, activists that we need, right? Because we have to reject that kind of division of labor whereby we'll be only specialized in racial matters and not, you know, pay enough attention to those interconnected or intersectional issues that you have talked about, right?
No, we
So,
definitely do,
I like how
particularly in the
Buna.
environmental space, because I will tell y'all, the environmental organizing space is not a safe space for a Black woman, for
Mm.
any woman of color. It is
Mm.
dominated by white hegemony. White supremacy still reigns and rules the day in environmental spaces, because these people want to believe that their mission as environmentalists is to bring another recycling program, even though that shit is greenwashing, but to bring another recycling program and to teach some people how to compost and create a pollinator garden, and they've done the work. They don't want to
So
hear
when you
anything
say
about
greenwashing, let's take that back, because Kiana throwing these terms around like you know what I'm saying, like it's greenwashing, and she's just gonna walk by, like you know what I'm saying, like she did work, and like we ain't gonna ask what the hell greenwashing is. Folks who don't know what greenwashing is, because when I hear greenwashing, I'm thinking about my grandmother putting some collard greens in a tub and washing those. So
no,
what
honey,
greenwashing to you?
they could never wash no greens for me. That's number one.
Okay,
But
all
number
right.
two, greenwashing is when you take something and make it look like it is environmentally friendly or sustainable. So recycling is the biggest greenwashing scam in history, because over 60% of whatever you put into a recycling bin is going to end up in a landfill.
Wow.
Stop that shit. You're wasting your time. If it ain't paper or some extremely thin plastic, don't put that shit in the recycling bin, because it's not going anywhere other than your local landfill. And understand, I'm a person who grew up with 2 landfills in my neighborhood. Landfills, even after they are decommissioned, they are still emitting methane gas that's going into your water, that's going into your soil, that is harming you and your family. So when you hear about the sustainability programs from your local energy company, like Southern Company or Georgia Power, whoever, 9 times out of 10, it's greenwashing. Because when they say, oh, we put out a request for proposals for renewable energy, definitely greenwashing, because you put out a request, nobody probably ain't gonna answer it. And if they do, are you gonna award a contract? No. Because where are your solar programs? Where are your wind programs? Where are your water energy programs? Where are your renewables? You don't have any. So that is greenwashing.
Well, guess what? We would like to formally announce, and we haven't huddled up and discussed this, but we will have an environmental, we will have an eco segment in our new season of the Rise Up International Morning Show.
Yes.
We want you all to know that we have a new season coming up for Black Power Media as a whole, kicking off in Black August. So next month, August 1st, we
have a
kick
new
off
show.
a whole Boona said it's gonna be a whole new show. So,
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna be a new show.
Okay, yeah, okay. You know, we're gonna have to agree
Well,
with Boona
at
on
least
that.
I'm voting for it. Fernando too. So 2 out of 3, right? So definitely going to be new.
He said Fernando too.
You and Isaac both like to bring me on when I don't know what's going on.
Every time. You know what I'm saying? Then she like in front of me, and I be asking like, oh, yeah, we eat chicken? I thought I was vegan. But anyway, anything can happen here to Rise Up. July 17th, make sure you're in the building. Rise Up International Morning Show, our 1-year anniversary on the morning show. The Rise Up International Morning Show will have all the hosts on deck. We would like to thank everybody for checking us out today, because we all out of TIME. Shout out to our brother Isaac. Shout out to Rakeem. They had to cut out a little bit, but for joining us along with Fernando, Boona, and Kiana. You know what I mean? I have my care off. I'm in parts unknown. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? But we got a lot in store coming up on this new joint. We have some new shows stepping up, and we're excited. I'm gonna be like Boona. I'm gonna speak for all of us. We're excited.
We are.
And we all have our hands raised, even if we don't. Hands raised, finger up, however y'all want to do it. We're going to do it the way we need to do it. But this is the Rise Up International Show. We'd like to thank you all for joining us. Shout out to our brother Kimba and Sister Natasha, who you will be
Right.
seeing soon. I know Ikemba and Isaac run that show back. They just did 2 days ago, the Rise Up International Morning Show. Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Ture is who I meant to say, but definitely Kwame Nkrumah as well. Big up to Dhoruba and also Patrice Lumumba, celebrating his born date today, 1 century, 100 years old today. Patrice Lumumba. If you don't know about Patrice Lumumba, man, listen, man, go back and get a late pass. This year, 1 century, we had Patrice Lumumba, Malcolm, Frantz Fanon, Robert Williams, Medgar Evers, all born in 1925, as Una mentioned. But we're going to take you out with the fader real quick. Again, thank you all, comrades, brothers, sisters, and Dugus. Till next time, we will see you right here in the Rise Up Morning Show. Peace.
y'all.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one. Well, the battle is to love yourself and function in society where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares. Mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces winners on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution. It's real solutions. What we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution. Where my inner me really a mirror for the galaxy. New time, brand new paradigms, new contracts to sign. They thought that this would all be televised, though it's happening right before our very eyes. It's on the inside, with their guns cocked. When that rock drops, standing on the rooftop, praying that the mountaintop can live inside the valley. People tell me the reward is somewhere off in heaven, like heaven's only in the sky. Like chariots are swinging, like God is something separate from yourself, from your wealth, from your lover, from your neighbor. Oh, your savior is coming in your own name, coming with the face the same. Real revolution. It's real solutions. Where we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution. Where my enemy is really a mirror for the galaxy.